And we are live. Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I'm David.
I'm Justin.
And together we are the leads on game development and design here at Codename.
We also founded Codename too.
So we're going to be your hosts for this episode and for every episode.
Because when we're not here, the show doesn't happen.
It has held up for quite a few episodes at this point.
That's right. Today is our 99th episode.
We are so close to 100 and yet so far away.
So far away. Math's not my strong point, but won't our 100th episode be next week?
Don't worry, I won't ask you if it's prime. But yeah, that's the problem. There's not a lot of time left for us to plan something special, so we might just have to delay it.
Delay it? We can't delay it. The people have been waiting for it. I've seen yearning in chat, Dave. Yearning.
The pressure's getting to me. I don't think I can handle it. We get one shot at it. We might just have to cancel it.
Whoa, calm down. Don't panic. I'm sure they'll understand. This is really overacted. The only special thing about our 100th episode is jokes about the intro, or jokes in the intro about 3-digit numbers not fitting into the stream overlay.
Well, if you put it like that, it sounds like it's going to be a huge disappointment.
Fair enough. Anyway, we are here to answer development and design questions about Idle Champions.
However, if you don't ask any questions, you're going to have to suffer through Justin's one-man reenactment of, what do we got this week? Him baking a cake for his mom's birthday when he was 6.
Yeah, speaking of huge disappointments.
Dude, you were 6. How are you supposed to know salt and sugar were different?
Well, yes, there was that part, and
Flour and baking soda are very hard to distinguish for a 6-year-old.
You know, I'm really good at making cakes now, but my mom's never trusted me again to try a piece.
You swap out the amount of baking soda for flour. That'd be an interesting disaster. Anyway, as always, we have, in fact, pulled some questions from the previous show that we did not get to, and we will answer some of those while we are waiting for new questions to come in. But before we get to those, it says here that I have some updates for items we got flagged. Look at the dev team, but I know what I have is no updates. But let's look at that anyway. All right. Document change. Nope, that is the same document. All right. So I know Mark has been hard at work on getting some of the items off the Dev Insights list done, but last week there wasn't a lot of forward progress on sort of the main list because we were working on some performance backend related items. So we still have a list of items that are in progress, but we didn't get anything sort of new knocked off last week. So the in progress list includes making it so that season champions do not appear in the free timegate choice, making sure that we've got all of the new hotkeys in. It sounds like most of that is done, but we're still going to take another pass. You confirm that all areas have distractions properly assigned to them, preventing kicked players from just rejoining a trials lobby after they get kicked, because what's the fun in that? Having an order in the favor display just to not be just by ID, so some kind of sensible ordering there. An option to sort by slot in the blacksmith contract screen. Placing the current day to be listed on the season dialog, tracking achievements in the quest tracker, and adding a second exclamation point to the adventure party display to show that the party is at the goal. And it looks like we have some announcements, Justin.
Yes, we do have one announcement. This is definitely something that I think some people in chat are already aware of, but we wanted to spread this out as many places as we could, just so that everyone was aware of what's going on. So next week we are planning to make some changes to the patron currency awarded from patron variants. The current currency rewards from patron variants scales exponentially alongside the area requirement. And that is something we need to address. And so we are changing that to instead scale linearly with the area requirement, which is going to result in quite a bit less potential patron currency from patron variants. I might be understating the quite a bit less thing there. But the numbers more recently, with some of the more recent variants, were getting a little bit insane in the opposite direction. And we will speak to that as we go through here, because I'm sure we have a ton of questions about it. Well, I'm not sure. I'm 100% sure because I've already seen them. So we'll be answering those throughout the show. But there's a blog about them, and I would encourage everyone to go check out that blog, because it's not all bad. We're also reducing the number of patron challenges that are offered each week, and increasing the rewards of those. So there's less work to do there to get the currency from those. And we're adding a bunch of new patron perks, so that you've got something to spend all of your patron influence on. So yeah, that's my announcement.
Cool.
Let us move on to some leftover questions from last week's episode. So we pulled one here forward from Meow Arf Moo, who asked, is there a specific reason the hotkeys cannot be customized for each user? Having a default layout is fine, but it'd be nice to be able to set what makes sense for each user.
Yeah, so there isn't a specific reason that they cannot be customized. It's actually more of that initially the sort of the hotkeys were hard-coded for what they were, and we didn't build a system around assigning keys to them. And at this point, it is something that we certainly could do. We certainly could build a system so that you could customize the keys yourself. It's just something that we haven't had dev time to prioritize. As I'm sure many of you well know from items that get talked about on the show, we have many more things than we have time to do, and so we do have to sort of pick the ones that have the biggest impact. But certainly that is something that could very well happen in the future, but it's not something that's sort of on the top of the burning list right now. But certainly no technical reason that we couldn't do that. Just a little bit of dev work. Okay, next question. This one was from Rough Rider 1995, asking, can the Modron reset be increased to 2001?
Yeah, so this is a question that we've gotten quite a bit over the last, several months. And I'd want to address it now, because I think there's now, after several months, there's now a very good argument for implementing something like this, that being some of these season bonus quests that we've put in. So we were talking about this internally last week, and I think that we are going to look at what this requires. Hopefully it doesn't require very much. So we'll try and get this out in one of the next couple of builds.
Was that last week? I feel like it was even this week.
It was probably this week.
Yeah.
The week's I see. The way I think of weeks is time after Dev Insights. So a week is Thursday at 2, or Thursday at 3 to the next Thursday at 2.
I see. Okay, that works.
Yeah.
Okay. That's actually it that we pulled forward from last week. We did have a lot of questions, but we didn't actually, in fairness, we started a little bit late today and didn't get through them. And it looks like we've got a lot of questions to look at today. So we'll start with today's question. The first one in is from Rough Rider 1995, asking, will the tiered bonus quests be knocked down 2 levels annually or across each event? For example, Tier 20 in High Harvestide will be Tier 18, or Tier 1 for Liar's Night.
Yeah, so the current plan is that the similar ones will carry forward. So the ones that ask you to get to a certain event level, those ones will just get knocked down 2. So if you finished, say, Tier 15 in High Harvestide, you'll start out being offered Tier 14 in Liar's Night. And we haven't decided yet whether or not they will carry across to the next season or not. Right now, we're leaning towards having the next season have it reset back to Tier 1 for those things, but we're not 100% on that.
Okay. Here's not a question, but a nice comment coming above here. This is from Sinister Beer, and he says, kudos. Or no, kudos is the met type. Who put that in there? Damn it.
All right. They said
that? All right, well, we'll go with that. Kudos. Despite the anticipated barrage of questions and comments, I myself think y'all doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Which will follow up with the next one, which is from Fewer Pills. And the question is, what on earth? That's my question. I literally have no other words to the patron variant nerf that is planned.
Yeah, so I mean, I want to speak a little bit about this because obviously I announced it a little bit earlier. But the main reason that this nerf had to happen is because there is a Witchlight 10 variant where you can get enough currency from completing one variant to get 1,000 patron chests. And that is equivalent to 10 years worth of grinding patron challenges and the free currency, the free tier currency. Like, it's overwhelmingly out of whack. And so while this nerf may seem like it is an overwhelmingly huge nerf, it is overwhelmingly out of balance right now. So it needs to be addressed. The sort of example that's in the blog, it has like a 5 times linear scaling on things. It's possible we can adjust that a little bit. I was looking at the numbers just before the stream, and basically right now, if you complete all of the variants, you would get around 200 chests. That does feel a little bit low. And so we might go through and adjust that a little bit. But even 200 chests is 100 weeks worth of patron challenges and free plays. And so we've got to find the proper balance point for that. But the challenge here is that, yes, the exponential scaling was not a good idea. And should never have been the way that currency scaled up for variants. But it didn't really become apparent until we started to see variants with a ridiculously high area requirement, which translated into a ridiculously high amount of currency there. So we will need to find the balance point for that. It's not going to be back to where it was, but it's going to be somewhere in there. It's going to be somewhere in the linear range.
Okay.
Let's see. The next question here, I can ask you this one, because since you had an arm or a fingers in the shop stuff. This is from Izan26, who asks, the PAX tab in the shop is overwhelmingly crowded. Have you thought about redesigning it in some way to improve accessibility? Perhaps you could place recommended or featured packs at the top with large pictures and the rest with reduced size to fit better. Also, I feel that a single scrollable page in each tab would provide a much better user experience.
The packs tab. And that's I guess we've got what, 3? It's 3 by 3 by 2 by 3 in the packs tab. I think it's not it's not 2 by 4, right? It's 2 by 3.
I don't recall the specifics. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of interestingly. Yeah, it's a tricky one. We certainly spent a lot of time working on the store redesign when we did it. One of the things that we initially started with in the packs design was to have like simplified images around the packs. And during the testing of that, the thing that we ran into was that people struggled to see what was sort of in the pack. Like the images for it didn't give you a good idea of what you were getting. And so we ended up actually, adding a whole bunch of, putting all the pieces back onto the visualization for the pack, which of course made it a lot like visually busy. But it meant that when you looked at the pack, you could see that sort of these are the items that are in it, and there was no sort of like, all right, there's a key art image for the pack, and then you click on it, and then you see the details when you're inside. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure sort of what the best way to sort of approach making the packs tab less visually overwhelming, at the same time remaining the ability to see what the contents are, because it was, like I say, something that we did end up having quite a bit of back and forth on when we were doing the redesign. This sort of was the intention that sort of recommended items did show up on like the recommended tab. I think sorting and filtering on that could be helpful as well. Like there's other ways that we could do that would sort of highlight things that made more sense. And I know that I think it was on the recommended tab, there was also the intention, and I know this hasn't been fully sort of actualized yet, to put to feature items there that sort of do make sense for where your account is at. And so I think there's some other things we can do there, but I'm not really 100% sure sort of what the best approach is in terms of, say, making it less overwhelming, but also still having them be functional displays. I don't know, Justin, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think maybe like making the filters and stuff a little bit more prominent, because we do have filters on there where you can filter like even by champion. Is that a thing? Or is it just by,
I think it
maybe
is.
I'm misthinking. Maybe I'm thinking about a different page in the store.
I know they all have a variety of different sort of options for filtering, but I thought the packs
Yeah.
did have a filter by champion.
They might just have a filter by contents like familiar, skin, feet, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny because I see them talking in chat about how the PAX has 19 pages, and I was scrolling through the questions here, and there's another question from Izan. Um, a couple of questions in here where they ask, have you considered adding all the feats that can be purchased with gems to the shop in some way? Which is like, can we make the PAX page a little bit smaller, but then add like literally hundreds or thousands of feats to the gem shop? Yeah, we need to find we need to find a solution to the first one before we can do the second one.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely sounds like the sorting and filtering is kind of the thing to do. But
Mm-hmm.
um, I guess the question, sort of a follow up question then for Izan would be: is there a particular sorting or filtering that you're looking for that is not provided there that would be helpful for for you when you're looking through it? Because we can certainly add more sort and filters. Okay. Next question. This is from Library of Akasha. Can you add a flip all cards setting so that they are flipped from the start? Also, a see all loot to skip straight to either the open 1,000 more or close option, please. Minor streamlining stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of stuff I think could make sense in a as quality of life updates. Obviously, we would want to, as you kind of ask in the question, we want to hide all this stuff behind settings, because I do think that for newer players, having the cards sort of flipped over and hovering over and seeing like, this one's rare, this one's epic, what's it going to be, I think is actually a very exciting thing. And makes opening chests really interesting in the early game. Obviously, once you get into the later game and you're really just grinding for a whole bunch of stuff at once, and the individual cards aren't as important, I could definitely see settings like this being valuable. So, yeah, down the road at some point, I could see adding these things.
Okay, next question. This is from Dark Drake 0210. Can you add an area in the Modron core pipe screen that shows you the effects of the nodes when they are connected, instead of us having to highlight the output nodes? Would make it easier for us to see what changes happen when replacing pipes.
Yeah, so I wasn't 100% sure what they were asking for here. I know that we do have, if you hover over the input node, so the node that the Modron goo comes out of initially, I think it is supposed to show you all of the bonuses that the core is providing. I'm not 100% sure about that. Maybe someone in chat can back me up on that. So I think that might be what you're asking about. If not, I am happy to follow up with that if you can clarify what you're looking for in this case. But let's go on to the next question.
Sure.
I'll wait to see.
Next question. This is from Emote. First, you fix buying retired champion gold chests during their event by opening a time gate, and now a patron currency nerf. Honestly, how are you expecting new/mid-game players to ever be able to full epic all the retired event champions now? There are 68 of them. Surely you have something planned to make this goal that won't take years to accomplish.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a fair question, and I'm not sure I have an answer for it that you're going to particularly like. But I think my kind of short answer is I'm not sure that is necessarily an expectation. Like, I'm not sure full epicing a whole bunch of very old champions is necessarily something that we want to directly encourage new or mid-game players to do. I think we want new and mid-game players to be very focused on the latest content that we're rolling out, and I think that it's not necessarily something that we're super focused on being super duper easy. With that said, it is something that we're aware that players want to do, and we do want to look for ways in the end game to have that be a little bit easier, but we don't want it to be too easy. And so I think that the kind of exploit with the time gates and event currency and stuff, and then using a whole bunch of bounty contracts to get a bazillion event currency to then very trivially fully gear and increase the item level for old champions was not really a good way that we would want that to be done. And I also think that with the patron currency scaling so much that you get 1,000 patron chests from one adventure, which is like at least 200 plus epic items. It's 200 just with the pity timer kind of thing. Or I guess it's 100 with the pity timer, and it would be more than that. It's just not really the right way for that to happen from a balanced game perspective and wanting to have the gameplay be balanced. So that's this is a tough question for us. And I mean, this is obviously something that only gets harder as we get more and more champions in the game. If a player joined the game back when it rolled out, 6 and a bit years ago,
6 years ago,
they're going to have had 6 years to gear up these champions, and all of the stuff that comes from 6 years of play. The question of if somebody starts playing now, should it take them 6 years to gear up all these champions? Is that a reasonable thing? Probably not. We probably want it to be shorter, but how much time do we want that to be, and how much effort do we want that to be? Because as certainly with with some of the feedback for the bonus quest last week, players want all of that effort that they put into doing stuff for all the time they've had playing the game to be acknowledged and valued. And so we don't want it to be too trivial for a new player to come in and just do 6 years worth of what you've spent time on in like a month or 2 months. So we do need to find the balance there. I'm certainly not claiming that the patron variant nerf is the proper balance for that, but it's something where action needed to be taken because it was obvious that there was an imbalance there, and we will continue to work to try and have a very balanced game as much as possible, because a balanced game is going to be the best game in the long run.
Yeah, and that's sort of an interesting as listening to you talk about that, Justin. I do think that that is potentially an unrealistic expectation to be able to come in as a new player and 100% the game kind of thing in a short amount of time. There's a lot of champions, and with the more champions you add, the more trivial it would have to become to be able to catch up. So every time you add a champion, we have to make it easier to catch up.
Yeah.
And when I think really the goal is that if you're a new player, that you can get gear for the characters you start with, and then as you gain new characters, that you have something that is part of the current gameplay meta that you can participate in and talk to people about and be part of, without necessarily getting every single champion. Even in the end, maybe you play for a long time after that, and you may still not have every single champion. But
yeah, I mean, and we try very hard to make sure there are systems within the game so you can get everything that folks have gotten, right? Like Nerds is a good example of a champion that was initially released into the game. In order to get that champion, you needed to go to a store like in the US and buy like a special pack of Nerds candy and find a code inside it to unlock the champion in game. And obviously that was something that somebody who lived in Europe or Asia or even up here in Canada couldn't necessarily do very easily. And so we wanted to make sure that champion that we'd spent time making and that players could get would be accessible for everyone in game. So we put we put it in there for gems as well. So I mean, these are kind of we are trying to find that balance between things being doable and things just being too trivial. and our feeling was that the patron currency was trivializing things too much.
Yeah, and I think another thing on that note is sort of as we do the seasons, we're focusing on a set number of champions, and every season we make it so that those champions are easier to obtain. And so if you keep playing every season, you build up that roster of players, or that roster of characters, without at a reasonable clip, not necessarily at like a full epic in X months clip, but yeah, lots of new stuff to play with. So.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing I would say is just to really like try and get our thoughts out there for you guys to take in is I think as the game has gotten more mature, we have also added just more ways that stuff gets to you. So when we started out, again, like 6 years ago, the way you could get stuff for champions was to open their chests during their events, or to buy chest packs for them during their events. And then there was, I think, like one rotating champion you could buy chests for outside of that. We didn't have time gates. We didn't have patrons. We didn't have Electrum chests. We didn't have seasons. We didn't have all of these all of these tools that people now have to be able to do some of that catch up and some of that stuff. And so I would expect more of that stuff to appear in the game as the game continues to mature and continues to get new systems, and we'll continue to make sure that there's a fun kind of path through the game progression as much as possible.
Okay, next question. This one is from Library of Akasha. Just noticed that if you get the 6th equipment to 125, 251, or 501 before getting the common, uncommon, or rare, they straight up refuse to spawn in chests. Could you fix that, please?
Yeah, so this is an issue that we've known about for a very long time, where basically because we try not to give you loot that will do nothing for you, it will not appear in chests. Lower rarity gear, or really any rarity gear in a slot that has a max level, will not appear in chests after you are at that max level, because we don't want to give you an item that does nothing for you, doesn't even give you item levels. In general, that's good, but if you are trying to complete your collection and you want to get that, you want to fill in that common, uncommon, rare slot, obviously that doesn't work out. So we have thought about ways to fix this. I think the most recent one that we were thinking of is that Electrum chests would potentially have this option to do it, and then that would address that. And hopefully over time, Electrum chests would potentially even prefer to fill unfilled common, uncommon, and rare slots.
All right. Next question. This is from Sinister Beer, asking, is there any in-game reason for collecting loot from bosses that Briv helps the team avoid?
So I interpreted this question as, is there any reason why you get the boss loot chests even though you jump over the boss? I think the answer is, if we didn't do that, I don't think people would really use Briv as much. Maybe this is a good solution to the whole 9 jump thing, which surprisingly I haven't seen pop up in the questions yet today.
They gave up, Justin.
They've given up. But certainly if we did that, people would not want to have a 9 or 11 or 12 jump Briv anymore, because they'd want to just jump from boss to boss to boss to make sure they get their items. But it was mainly because we wanted the jump to be a good speed mechanic without being too punishing. So so that's why.
All right. Next question. This is from NT Kaysen. Are there concerns for how the reduction in patron variant rewards will discourage new players? Us veterans already have enough patron currency to last a lifetime. More than new players will see in a lifetime now.
Yeah, so, and I think that's that's part of the reason why it needed to be.
That highlights it right there. Yeah,
that's exactly why it needed to be reduced. the point at which clicking the buy button on the chest becomes the impediment to using your currency, is the point at which you have too much currency. So am I concerned about new players being discouraged by that? I don't know. I don't think so.
I wouldn't think so.
I think there's lots of ways in the game to gear up your champions and make progress on that. There is, yes, it's harder now to full epic your champions in a fairly trivial way, but I don't think that's the end of the world. I think that it's probably good for the game in the long run. It gives us opportunities to add more ways in that can be seen as valuable. Whereas prior to this nerf, it's just, I don't know. It didn't feel like that new mechanics and stuff were necessarily going to be impactful when there was already this kind of trivial way to do it with another system.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we'd seen comments. I mean, I've seen them in the chat every time it came up, or every time patron related stuff came up, for the last X teen episodes of the show, where the comment had been like, why bother doing them? You do one and you have enough. So certainly it was way out of whack in that sense. And then I guess in regards to new players, there are, as Justin says, lots of ways in the game to sort of make progress towards that. And if you come in and sort of the reality, I think here is, if you didn't know there was a super easy way to do it, it's not going to bother you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think we're ready for the giveaway, Justin.
Oh yeah, there's a giveaway. So if you want to get some more patron chests, here's your opportunity. It's time for our world famous 42 chest giveaway. The way this works is very shortly there will be a code in chat. All you have to do is copy that code, paste it back in, and you'll be entered for a chance to win 42 chests of your choice. It can be any type of chest in the game, except for Glory of Bahamut chests. It can be 42 patron chests if you want. You can get some Mert patron chests. You can get some Vajra patron chests. You can get some Elminster patrons. Oh, no, you can't get those yet. There's all sorts of patron chests you could get. So hopefully that'll start soon and I can stop talking and then it will. And then you will bid. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah.
There we go.
And of course, my personal favorite, the transparent aluminum chests. Those are the best chests because you can see what's in them before you open them.
Yes, they're pretty good. Any sort of transparent chest in general would be, I think, better than an opaque chest.
We're having a new set of chests actually. We'll be adding the noble gas chests. So we'll have a helium chest and a neon chest. A xeon chest, a krypton chest, an argon chest, a radon chest, and I can't pronounce that word. Oh, yes. What is that?
Is there a new one since we were in school, like down in the Anoptanian row there?
Ogansy?
When I was young, there was only 101 elements.
It says does not occur in nature, instead created only by scientists.
Elemental table. Oh my god, yeah. Yeah, there was not a 118th element when I was learning my periodic table.
I hope that's true.
That's just crazy.
I don't see a date on when that was added. Anyway.
Let's continue.
Certainly. Next question. This one is from Emote. Is there a particular reason that pigments, interesting, if that means something why it was broken up that way, were made to be reliant on rolls to buff? It feels pretty bad to be using a pure DPS champion that can only use DPS pigments, when there are others using DPS/support champions that can also use the extra 6 support pigments. I know they really don't. What are you doing? Who's moving that around? Oh, Mars is moving the question around, but it still feels like an imbalance at pure DPS champions' expense.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is
no worries, Mars.
I think this is it's a good observation. I think so. The reason that pigments were done in the way they were was not so much to make it so pure DPS champions couldn't get support ones, but so that um, non-tanking champions couldn't get tanking ones, and non. Basically, it was more to try and exclude some of the other ones rather than trying to make pure DPS champions worse. With that said, I think in general, I don't think we've even given out enough pigments for this to necessarily be an issue quite yet. But it is something we can think about, and whether we want to allow support pigments to be put onto pure DPS champions, just to kind of take the requirement off of support stuff. But by the same respect, we didn't really necessarily want DPS pigments to be put onto support champions, because that's not something that would necessarily be beneficial. And so I think this was more of an exclusionary thing than trying more to exclude DPS and tanking pigments than to try and exclude support pigments from champions who don't have that role. Because really, the only champions of the game who don't have the support role are pure DPS champions. So that was a bit of I think a miss there.
Okay. Next question.
Yeah.
This is from Fog Pizcola 2. Sure. Best guess at pronouncing that. Anyway, they ask, will there be a Modron automation feature to reset an adventure when a specific amount of Briv stacks has been reached?
Yes, good question. We've gotten this kind of request before, and I think we've kind of talked about this on Dev Insights before about what kind of features are sort of good features to spend time on, and what kind of features are just a little bit too niche to spend time on. I think this one's pretty close to being too niche. Because it's specific, like Modron powered Briv resetting, Briv farming is something that I think is a very very end game kind of thing that even just a very small subset of end game players are going to be attempting to do. So I don't know that we would get to adding something like this. I think there's a lot of quality of life things. There's a lot of features. There's a lot of stuff we want to put in the game that probably ranks a little bit higher than this in terms of priorities. But if we keep on going for 10 years and we get to the point where we've fixed all the bugs and the content pipeline's good and our feature set it feels really good, then maybe we could get to something like this. But I think it would be pretty far off.
All right, next question. This one is from OG17. With the patron variant nerf making challenges more relevant, can Fen be given Strongheart's background effects as a common sense convenience? Also, this is a huge hit to newer players filling in old epics. Are there upcoming changes to address this? The answer to the state of challenges, time gates, events, etc. has been work up to later patron variants for a ton of chests. But without that, you're just left with systems insufficient for the current roster size.
Yeah, I think so. I think we've addressed the sort of the last part of this in previous questions, but I will go to the part about Fen and Strongheart. I think we've talked about this internally. We talked about it on Dev Insights a month or two ago when it was first asked, and we said we'd kind of think about whether it made sense. We've talked about it internally. I think it probably does make sense just as a quality of life to try and make the patron stuff just easier to do. And that's one of the things that we're doing in this update as well. That's kind of getting buried in in all of the patron or the variant nerf stuff, is that we are reducing the number of patron challenges each week while keeping the rewards the same. So I think having more stuff that makes that a little bit simpler is probably a good idea.
Okay. Next question. This one is from Niscus, which they say, "Good day. Currently in trials, the only way of rerolling a bad restriction is failing/skipping the day. To me, it could be interesting adding an option to reroll the last restriction you got. But if you do, then you get penalized with an increase in the target area persistent for the current trial. The penalty could be a fixed amount like 50 or 100 areas, or something like 10 times the tier of your current trial."
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I think we probably won't do something like this because the current plan with trials is to really completely redo that system with something very different. So yeah, we're unlikely to get to something specific like this because we are planning to redo that system.
Okay.
The next question is from OG17, and they say save feats with formation is checked by default when saving formations, so it needs to be manually unchecked every time. Could this be changed to remember user settings, or just remember the last thing that a user did on that with that?
Yes.
Cool.
Easy answer. We could definitely do that.
Okay, the next question is from either Mr. Sackmo or Mrs. Acmo. I can't tell which. And they ask, not game related, what do you use for BI reporting?
Sure. This is something I'm not necessarily going to go into great detail into, but BI being business intelligence reporting, which is sort of like, where we track, how many players are playing on a given day and what people are purchasing and that sort of stuff. So we did actually for quite some time use something called Tableau, which I have words about, but I'm not going to say them. But we did.
Right, you said Tableau, and I just got a little bit of in my throat.
Yeah. But over the last 2 and a bit years, actually, we've been building out an internal system that sort of provided the features that we needed there without being the sort of, well, I won't say it. But anyway, we have quite a robust internal system at this point for reporting on internal, game-related items. And so it's just it's actually a sort of a stack built on a similar sort of framework to the game, which is, it's a web stack of PHP and MySQL and web and JavaScript for doing charting and that sort of thing. And it was working quite well. But yeah, so it's an internal and it's a custom tool that we use for that. All right.
Oh.
Next question/comment here, which probably isn't going to happen, but this was from Gordis, and it says, for episode 100, all viewers get 42 chests.
Okay, but they're going to be 42 chests of our choice. So
yeah.
How many people are there in chat? There are 400 people, so 399 of you are not going to like getting 42 silver rosy chests.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. Okay.
They knew where I was going with that even before I said it.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll think of something. Probably not that, but we'll think of something.
Probably not for it. I was joking.
Yeah.
So I'm not allowed to joke in here, and apparently they are all okay with that.
Next question. Okay. This is from Niscus. Good day. For the future 5th patron, in addition to Artemis Krond not being allowed, would you mind making it that Nerds is always qualified for that patron? I'm not ready to completely speak about what the 5th patron is going to be, but I believe Nerds would not currently qualify for that patron, given the restriction that we're thinking. I could be wrong on that. I'd have to look at some details about Nerds to verify that. But yes, as a slight spoiler for Nerds, or for the 5th patron rather, I don't think Nerds will be qualifying for that. Artemis and Kron definitely will not qualify for the 5th patron. Okay. Next question. This is from the Lurking Writer. It's tagged as silly questions. Week 2 of asking, will David nerf Justin for having too much power? Just like Quebec, Justin knows what he did.
What? No, I don't have too much power. I have not enough power.
Yeah, I'll have to work on that. Okay. Next question. This one is from Doozy9. With the increased number of champions that are likely over-leveled teammates, is there a chance that we will get info on which champions are already providing max stacks so they can stop leveling? It's kind of tiring to remember level cap of so many champions.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. Something I hadn't necessarily thought of. I mean, yeah, there's kind of two sides to this. One is that because of the way that leveling that gold costs for champions kind of scales exponentially, um, your champions you'll always kind of, if you have like familiars on every champion, or you're kind of leveling them up manually at the same time, they'll always kind of have the same number of or amount of gold spent on them, and so the cost to get a few more levels is going to be similar to the cost to get a few more levels on any other champion. And so if you happen to over level, say you happen to over level one champion by say 500 levels, it's not super going to affect the level that you can get your other champions to. So there's not really a huge point in stopping the leveling of your other champions. I'm not sure if I'm explaining that very well, but basically, yeah, there's not a super big point to stopping your other champions, because it's not going to reduce the potential level of your other champions because of the way that the exponential gold and the exponential level cost work. With that said, I don't mind the idea of maybe having somewhere in the character sheet, or somewhere where it displays how many levels over the soft cap they are. Since that is becoming something that is more relevant on more champions, I could see having that information easily accessible, just so you can kind of see, if not for the reason of like not leveling your champions anymore, but just having some more easy awareness of where they are. So yeah, I mean, I could see something like this in the profile, or somewhere on the UI.
Okay. Here's a question, I think specifically given the code was bad at math, Justin. Can you answer this? This says, it's from Dag Anasty, and they ask, what is the difference between 2 times and 200%?
Well, there's some missing information here for me to fully answer this. So, I mean, it's the percentage question, and this is something that confuses some people sometimes. But if you have a number and then you have 200% of that number, that's a 2 times. But if you have a number and then you have 200% more, that's a 3 times. So in our game, we always say increase something by 100%, 200%, which basically means it's kind of one number more than the hundreds number. So 200, increase something by 200% would mean it's 3 times the original. Increase something by 100% would mean it's 2 times the original. And honestly, I can't even remember back to like why we decided to use percentages instead of just using multipliers. I feel like there was a reason, but I can't remember what it was. And I think we decided on it like back when we made Crusaders, which would have been, almost 10 years at this point.
Yeah, I wonder if it was from smaller increments, like this provides a 25% increase is, less, it's easier to read than say this provides a 0.25 times increase.
1.25
or 1.25
times.
1.25 times, sort of like makes less, maybe just, I'd say it makes less sense because I look at it, both make the same amount of sense, but it might just be easier to sort of understand in more of a language sense, like
but then you get into weird stacking things where it's like, a 2 times and then a 2 times is pretty intuitively a 4 times.
Yes,
but a plus 100% and a plus 100% when stacking multiplicatively is a plus 300%. So yeah, I don't know. I think if we did another game of this type, I would like to somehow try and have like an option that players can toggle between the two, just so they can work with whichever one makes more sort of intuitive sense for them. But yeah,
this starts to turn into like, really you need like one of those like word math problems, If Brunor has a 2 times increase and gets a 200% bonus on his damage item and already has a 25% global bonus, how much bonus does Brunor have?
Yeah.
Show your work.
Yeah. Never make me design a math course questions for like grade 4, because it would just be way too confusing.
Or a cake recipe, apparently.
Or a cake recipe. Well, no, I'm good at cakes now. Anyway, next question here is from Rough Rider 1995, who asks, when will some dev time be allocated to background tracking of stacking champions So they are useful, i.e., Blueshy or Freely.
I see you highlighted this and then asked it for me.
That is correct.
I don't have an answer directly on that. I know this is something that Mark has been working through various stream-related items, and this would be something that would fall onto his plate. So it's really just becomes sort of a prioritization of when there's time for something like that. So I see Justin has highlighted the question. He clearly is thinking that we should prioritize that.
It should be on Mark's list.
Okay.
I know I highlighted a few because I know you're working with Mark on sort of his tasking of these Dev Insight issues. And so this is something that we've talked about on Dev Insights about how the background track, party tracking, and the offline progress, how it kind of is approximating in a lot of cases your progress and your stacks and your challenge progress and quest progress and stuff like that. And I think that we definitely do want to spend time making sure that that we can get that as close to kind of foreground party progress as possible. So, yeah, I'm gonna highlight that one.
Word math problems.
Push that one up the ladder thing.
Okay. Next question. This is an easy one. This is also from Rough Rider 1995. Will there be an in-game pop-up related to these patron changes before next week for those not on Discord or other social media?
I think we were planning to do that. Yeah, we wanted to spread this pretty far and wide. I will check in with the marketing team and just verify that or the marketing community management team and just verify that was something we were going to do. But I believe there was discussion of that internally of doing that because we didn't want anyone to be surprised by these changes.
Okay. Next question. You better highlight at least one more, Justin. I think we still have some time.
Oh my goodness, we still have a little bit of time. Okay.
The next question here is from Fishdege. When will the changes announced today be implemented into the game? So when are the patron changes happening?
So the reduction in the patron variant rewards and the patron perks will be released next Wednesday, which I believe is the 11th. And then the changes to the patron challenges will go out the following Monday because they have to go out when patron chores roll over. So they'll go out the next Monday, which is the 16th at noon when your patron challenges roll over. So you'll have 10 patron challenges next week. And then the week after that, you will have 8 patron challenges, and the rewards for each of them will be adjusted so that it still adds up to 5,000 currency.
Okay. Next question. This is from SailNet. Could you ask someone to review the use of, quote, fair for every adventure and variant since Wild Beyond the Witchlight came out?
I assume this is in regards to the kind of the difficulty that we display, which is, to be fair, way wrong. Not and I think the
just
reasons,
remove it.
Yeah, I think we should just remove it until we can find a way. So that way back in the day, 6 years. Let's go back 6 years again to when the game was just released, and we had like one system in the game, and that was events. The ways that you could get power was basically by getting more currency, and so we basically balanced those the sort of adventure difficulties and variant difficulties off of how much favor you had, and we would say, if you had a million favor, then this adventure would be easy, and if you had if you only had 1,000 favor, this adventure would be challenging, this kind of thing. And that worked okay, but not fantastic initially.
Sure.
And it's just gotten worse and worse with new systems added into the game that give you more power, to the point at which it's just not even close to accurate, because you can just get the champions are so much more powerful. You can get so much more power from blessings and from patron perks and from season buffs and from Modron cores and from all these other systems. So there's at some point that system just needs to be redone. I think I kind of agree with Dave that I think at this point it should just be completely yanked out, because it is just complete nonsense for everything. And I think the reason it says fair is because I think at some point we just stopped even putting in the kind of default data for it, because it just didn't I don't know. It just didn't make sense. So, yeah, I think it's fair to review that and just maybe remove it for now till we can get a better solution in there.
Yeah, and a better solution is I'm not confident we would come up with one, given that we did spend a significant amount of time trying to figure that out.
I think in order to have a better solution, we'd have to find a way to basically boil down someone's power in the game to a single number and just be comparing things against that number.
Right, but even that didn't work
it's
because
so complicated.
Like, some of them were such that if you had X amount of champions in a particular seat, you could get through it easier if you didn't. Right, like especially things that pull things out.
That's fair.
So that's not a power number.
Things.
That's like yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that is all we have time for this week.
Yes, if we didn't get to your question, don't worry. You will have at least one more opportunity. We will be live again at this same time next week for our 100th episode.
Shit, we gotta plan something for that.
Yeah, we really should talk about that. Before we sign off, though, we'd like to thank our tireless mods. This week it was Gabe and Mars. They copy your questions into our questions doc so we can answer them, and they help make things awesome in chat. So thanks to both of you.
And of course, thanks to all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, asking such great questions, and for enjoying the game, because without you, no one here would get to do what we do.
And we like what we do.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Bye.
So, I asked my girlfriend if I was the only one she's ever been with. She responded yes. The others were 7s and 8s.
Rough. Dude, I'm sorry. Oh, wait, that was a dad joke.